Hi, I'm Cheryl Leach. In this problem, we're told to use integration by parts to find the indefinite integral x cosine of 8x dx. Now, before we dive into this problem, it's worth talking about why would I want to use integration by parts. When I look at this integrand, I notice a couple of different operations. I see a composite function, the cosine of 8x, but then I also see a multiplication, x times that cosine function. Well, the composite function makes me think of the substitution technique. The multiplication makes me think of integration by parts. Well, which should I use? Well, if I begin with the substitution technique, my u would be an 8x. And if I choose u to be 8x, du would be 8dx, and I would have no way of getting rid of that x in my integrand. So I'm going to put the substitution technique aside and try integration by parts. So once I've settled on that technique, I need to determine which factor is going to be the u and which is the dv. Because in integration by parts, I need to look at a product, u and dv. Well, I have a couple of different choices. I could let the u be the x, or I could let the u be the cosine of 8x. So let's try one. Let's go ahead and try u being equal to the cosine of 8x. That's going to leave dv being an x dx. So notice I've accounted for the entire integrand. I've got my u and my dv. All right, so let's proceed. I'm going to need a du and a v to complete integration by parts. So I can get the du by differentiating my u. So the derivative here is going to be minus the sine of 8x. And then by the chain rule, I have to multiply by 8. And of course, I have a dx because I found the differential. In order to get v, I'm going to take the integral of x dx. So the integral of x dx is going to be x squared divided by 2. Now, what does integration by parts tell me to do? It tells me to multiply u and v together. So these are these two terms multiplied together. And subtract the integral of v du, which will be those two terms. All right, I'm going to need to integrate x squared divided by 2 times minus 8 times the sine of 8x dx. Now, the whole point of this was to make my integration easier. I think my integral just got more complicated. So I'm not sure that this is a very good choice for my u and dv. So we're going to cross this out and try again. This time, I'm going to try letting u be x. So let's let u equal x. That means that dv is going to be the cosine of 8x dx. Now again, in order to do integration by parts, I'm going to need a du and a v. I'm going to get the du by taking the derivative of u. So du is going to be dx because the derivative of x is 1. To get the v, I'm going to integrate, and I'll need a little substitution to do this one, but I'll go ahead and do that in my head. The integral of the cosine is sine, so I'm going to have 1/8 sine of 8x. All right, let's try our integration by parts technique now. I need u times v. Those two pieces multiply together. Then I have to subtract the integral of v du, which will be those two terms multiplied together. Take a look at what my integral is going to be. That's something that's much easier to handle than before. So I think I've made the correct selection. All right, so let's go ahead and tackle this problem. The integral of x cosine 8x dx by integration by parts will be the same thing as x times 1/8 sine of 8x. So x times 1/8 sine of 8x minus the integral of v du, which will be 1/8 sine of 8x dx. Okay, I think I should do a little bit of simplification here. I'm going to have an x over 8 times the sine of 8x minus, I can pull that 1/8 out, because it's a constant multiple. And I've got 1/8 times the integral of the sine of 8x dx. Okay, so I'll have x divided by 8 sine of 8x minus 1/8 times this integral. Now again, this integral will require a small substitution. I'll go ahead and do that in my head. If you're still having trouble with that, feel free to do some side work. But the constant that will be pulled out will be a 1/8, and the integral of sine is minus cosine. So I'm going to have minus cosine of 8x. And don't forget that constant of integration. Okay, a little bit of simplifying, and I have x divided by 8 sine of 8x plus 1/64 cosine of 8x plus my constant. I hope that was helpful. Thanks.